Already
Just go on that. Karen, good. Council, good. Staff, good.
Yes, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Independent City Council meeting. It's Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. It's 6:37 in the evening. Glad to see everybody here. Let the records show that councilors are here except for Councilor Martin Willis, who's ill, and Councilor Job is on the phone, as is Councilor Roden. Okay? Just to, it's not on your agenda, but I just want to add under 7.1, when we get to water rate users and fees, after the staff reports, there's going to be a public comment period. So it's not on your agenda, but I just want everybody to know that there's a public comment period there. And so that's when folks will have a chance to visit with us. We have the minutes of May 15th in your packet. Do they meet with your, oh, excuse me, they're going to be presented on the 11th. I'm sorry, I was just going rote. Okay, we're now going to go to visitor comments, and reminding folks, this is 5 minutes maximum. The council is here to listen. We're not engaging back and forth, but we are here to listen. And we have one person who signed up under visitor comment, and it's Chantel. Good evening. Welcome to council.
Hi, City Council. How are we doing tonight? So today I wanted to just pass, I wanted to bring copies for everybody.
Go ahead and give it to Jared.
Welcome. Last time I was here, I mentioned I looked up a list of different grants that rural libraries are eligible for, and I brought a copy of my research there. That's not all of them, and most of them, as I discussed with a couple of counselors after the last meeting, are not for operational costs, but they do fund summer reading programs and improvements to our library, so I think it's a great opportunity if we aren't already tapping those resources. The main thing I wanted to talk today about was, you guys probably already know these statistics, this pamphlet I got at the library about usership in our particular library. But I mostly wanted to mention it today for those listening here in person and online who might not know these facts. So a lot of the questions I got online were, do we even need libraries? Why are libraries important? Everyone has a cell phone these days. But I just wanted to mention that there were over 74,000 visits documented in 2023. And if you do the math, that equates to about 200 visits per day. That is average, so like if you go there one day and it seems pretty slow, that doesn't necessarily mean that nobody's using the library, they just aren't there right then when you were there. Our usership is also up. Program attendance for those movie nights and Star Wars themed days and all the other programs that they have there is up 56%, and library visits in general are up 60% from 2022. So I just wanted to share that with everybody listening in and people here today. And just, I guess I can also give an update. The petition I had to the City Council to secure funding for the library that is not part of the Arts and Culture Levy, but to find a different way. While I personally support that, I do know that a lot of people I've talked to are feeling the pressure of the economy on their wallets and budgets. And so that particular petition has over 350 signatures as of 6 p.m. tonight. And I'm still, you might have seen this poster in Brew and at Odenberg Bakery in the window. I need to make more of them. I also have a 3-year-old who just had a birthday, so I've been very busy. But I'm going to be putting those in more businesses downtown. So that was all. I just had those couple of updates and to share my research with you guys.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay, moving forward, I have a very brief report here. Just City Manager and I met with Senator Patterson recently just to give her an update on the projects that we're working on here in town. and to thank her for her continued support. And I'm really happy to report that the group that is working on the wall that heals, the 3/4 size traveling Vietnam memorial replica, submitted that application. Today's 20th, they submitted that application yesterday, and so we won't know till the end of summer if we've been selected to host that in 2025. It was very encouraging to see the number of letters of support from different places. Our governor, our legislators, our congressional members, local business folks, this council and others. And so it's moving forward. We're just now in the wait and see point. So we are hopeful. So with that, that's my report there. In your packet, you have an appointment for the Traffic Safety Commission, and they did not include the application. So let me tell you a little bit about Michael Tweed. He is interested in participating. He lives out on River Oak. He wants to participate in community improvement projects that benefit all the citizens. He spent 8 years as a volunteer firefighter and a fire company historian. His past work experience includes working at IBM as a project manager. I had a chance to visit with him, and I think he'd do a nice job on our Traffic Safety Commission because we also are a little short there. So sorry I didn't get into the packet, but I think you do a great job.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman. Second.
I have a motion second. Is there discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
Councilor Job and Councilor Roden, is that yes for both?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion is approved. Okay, liaison reports. Councilor Schwartzer, I think you have Minnet and Parks and Recreation, please.
Yes, so good evening. Minnet update. So Minnet recently hired a new finance director, so she has been getting onboarded just in time for budget season. So she is up to speed and has jumped right in. Also, Minnet has adopted a budget passed at our last meeting. They worked really hard to make the budget more streamlined, more transparent, a lot easier to read. Their primary goal is to make sure that they are making their debt repayments. They have been making the debt repayments, and they are on track to be meeting that this coming year, which is good news for our communities. The expansion into Rick Rial and South Dallas continues to go well, and they're adding new accounts to that. And they are excited to be signing a franchise agreement with Falls City, and their school district will be getting Minnet internet starting in July. So that's a great expansion to the whole city. That's much needed. On to parks, a couple things of note there. They've been looking at park rules and working on updating those. Also looking at, or the question was posed, how do historic trees get added to the register, which I thought was interesting. So that is under one of our code chapters that outlines how trees are essentially nominated or added to the register, and then it is also regulated by the city council. We're approval for that. And did have a public comment from David Klein recommending or wanting to include in the budget for this year the South Trail expansion, the Riverview South Trail expansion, which was timely because Sean Irvine recently gave an update on that project. So the trail would basically continue right here from City Hall and continues south. This was just a conceptual sort of preliminary look at what would it take to do that. It basically follows a rail line, but it does cross some private property, and looking at environmental impacts, what the cost of construction would be for that, which is a significant cost, which is probably going to be a holdup, because I believe this Gerald Parking brought on probably just under $4 million, just over $4 million to complete that project. And yes, there are grants that could potentially be applied for, et cetera, but it's probably a long time project, not something that's going to happen immediately. So.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Joe, would you like to give an Independence Days Commission update?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. 4th of July celebrations are quickly approaching. Independence Day's wristbands for entry on July 4th and on July 5th will go on sale starting on June 3rd. They are $10 per band per day. Independence residents can get a band and for a discount, up to 6 per family for $6 each instead of the $10, with proof of residence. The reduced rate bands are only available at Independence City Hall Civic Center from June 3rd to the 28th. After June 28th, there is no discounted bands available. July 3rd is free. Fireworks on July 4th and 5th only, not on the 3rd. Regular price wristbands can be purchased at the Library, Museum, Theater, Monmouth Independence YMCA, and the Polk County Fire District 1.
Thank you,
And that's all I
Counselor.
have for that.
Did I cut you off? Are you good? Did I lose you?
Yeah. Nope,
You're okay?
we're good.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Before I go on, I may have missed something here. Mr. Webb, were you wanting to talk about the city budget, or were you wanting to talk about water rate increases?
Everything in general, all one and the same, aren't they?
No, they're different.
Part of the city.
It depends which way, because we're talking about water increases later, but that's not budget. If you want to talk about the city budget, you can
Why
do
don't
that
you
now.
talk about the city budget?
Okay, because I got your slip stuck in with some others, so I'm gonna go back under public comment right here.
Should I?
You can, yeah, come on up, if that's okay.
Well,
Excuse me.
basically, it's a whole host of things. I probably don't have a whole lot of information. I don't think it's all bad information, but I read a lot of things that kind of speaks out of both sides of your mouth. No offense, I'm not trying to be offensive, I'm trying to say in general terms. They say, well, we don't have money for the library, we don't have money for this, we don't have money for that. My question is, and you cited X number of $1,000, at the end of the time, if you decide to close these facilities, will that money then be returned to us? Number one, very simple. No, you guys want to go somewhere else with it. That ain't right. You take away what we already paid for, you need to refund that money back to us. Because we paid for it. If your budget process is not budgeting to run this city, then you need to learn to budget like we do at home. This is not Washington where there's $79 trillion in debt. And everything you see, you have these proposals, say we're broke, or say all this stuff. Yet you have a proposal in here with crack seat on for $200,000 for cameras or something, I don't know what it's for. But on one side you're saying we're broke, and on the other side you're doing expenditures. Somebody needs to learn to function like we do at home. I'm on a fixed income. And from what I saw or recently said, my taxes are gonna go up $1,100 a year. And I do not like the idea that they put police tax over in the utilities. We need to start being truthful and telling people what these taxes are for, not burying them under some shield. There's probably an evasion of law, that's just my guess. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just publish it and say, this is a new police tax? You also, in your little brochure, say, oh, all the other cities got more police, so we should have more police. I don't agree with that. I really don't agree with it. I work from another city much larger than here, and my taxes went up 200%. My water bills went up about 45%. So I'm saying in general, that whoever are in the paid positions who are supposed to be budgeting and taking the taxpayer and saying, hey, there's a whole lot of stuff we can go buy. I could do the same thing. I can pull credit cards out and I can go buy everything. And that's kind of what's happening. Essentially, that there's not enough money to go around. But when you cut these programs, you need to give money back to us. You don't need to take it back to you. And why we need so much more money in all these other cities, I don't understand. I mean, I know Polk County is the highest county in the state of Oregon. But why a little city of 10,000 can't operate at the same cost as the town across the river? And that's a much bigger town. That's just my opinion. I'm just saying what I'm saying. All these increases under fictitious names are not right. It sounds like we need to say, this is a police tax, we should need to say, this is, we want to spend $200,000 more on police safety gear. Or we need to hire, like in your brochure, well, every other city has 1.7, and we only have 1.4, so we want to increase ours to theirs. That's not right. We don't need to increase ours to anything. What we need to do is work within our budget. And it appears to me that's not what's happening, because there's nothing but increase is all I've seen recently. That's my opinion. You guys have your opinion, I'm not beating anybody up. I'm just telling you, the Social Security said we're good for what, 2%? And how much have you increased it on this one tax? 5.7 on the $1,100, that's for me, that's an 18% roughly tax increase. No, I don't get that kind of money, maybe you do, but I was just saying that I think that we need to start living within our means and not saying we want like the kid in the grocery store or the candy counter. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, appreciate you taking the time to come in and visit with us. And I apologize for not getting you up earlier, but we got to it. Now it's our city manager report, it's Wes.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay. Usually I have really fun things to talk about. Unfortunately, this time we've got more serious things to talk about. I'm going to start with, we've had multiple reports of vandalism over the park restrooms. And we tried to get cameras on, we've repaired it over and over. The last episode included the vandal tearing a soap dispenser off the wall of the bathroom and destroying it, which means we have to pay to get the new soap dispenser and then put it on there. It's gotten to the point where, because of this recurring chronic vandalism, that we're gonna have to post warning signs to let everyone know that if the vandalism continues, we're gonna have to close those bathrooms for a limited time. We don't wanna close them, we just simply cannot afford to continue to repair the damage by the vandals. So, if anyone sees vandalism, if anyone notices anyone doing something, please give us a call, and maybe we can get the person that's doing that, or the people. But do know, once the signs go up, if there's more vandalism, we are gonna have to close it. We just can't afford to keep repairing it. You may have seen or heard some social media chatter about the purchase of the Essential Water Treatment Plant property. As you all know, by 2028, we will have issues with providing water to our community. You know, as we talked about budgeting and staying within our budget, for many years, there was funding pulled from water and used for other things, and we fixed that. We've become more transparent. We have doing the right thing these last couple of years, and it's hard. And I want to thank you, counselors, for that. We're no longer hiding the cost. We're showing the cost. And we're no longer taking it from water. We're showing the cost. Unfortunately, because we took it from water, we didn't have the money set aside to do the water treatment plant, and we didn't do it timely. So now we have to do it. Because by 2028, we will have issues with providing water to our community. The water treatment plant is essential, and it's essential to continue to provide that sufficient water to our community. Because unless you want to look like Flint, Michigan, and have the value of your houses go down, we have to have that water. So we're moving through the process. Because of the type of process that we have to go through, I can't talk a lot about what is happening. So I'm going to tell you what I can tell you. I coordinated with our contract attorneys. So staff is,
And this is related to the purchase of the land.
this is absolutely related to the purchase of the land.
Thank you.
Staff was previously authorized to proceed with the purchase and condemnation of the property needed for the essential water treatment facility. As I noted, the water treatment plant is necessary to continue to provide water to our community in the future and to put water rights held by the city to beneficial use. Again, the city council did a great job. They purchased water rights some years ago. Unfortunately, because the water funds had been siphoned off by prior management into the general fund, we were unable to put those rights to beneficial use. We have to do that by 2026. So that's part of what's going on. As required by law, a third-party agent was engaged by the city to contact the landowner and act as a representative for the city in regard to the land purchase negotiations. An appraisal was completed by a licensed appraiser. The city offered more than the appraised value in the hope that the process would continue to move forward promptly, because the city is on a tight timeline if we're going to build the water treatment plant and continue to provide sufficient water to our community and put those water rights to beneficial use so that we don't lose access to them. The owners rejected the above appraisal offer and alleged they were attempting to sell the property to another person. The city filed a complaint with the Polk County Circuit Court to continue the condemnation process and recorded documents with the county that such a complaint was filed so that anyone who might be interested in the property would be aware that there is a claim pending and not by in ignorance. We will now continue the process, which will include a hearing before the court unless the parties come to an agreement pre-trial. That's all I can comment on. We will not comment on the purchase price or any of the purchase conditions. That's all I'll say on that. There will be no movies in the park this year due to budget constraints in the tourism and events fund. And I'm going to take this opportunity, because there are a lot of people here and a lot of people online, that to remind everyone not to confuse our different funds, our different buckets. We have multiple different buckets for multiple different things, and they can only be used for multiple different things. So we have the general fund, and I know council, you know this, but again, it's all about educating and trying to explain this so that our community understands.
I'm sorry. Can I interrupt for a minute? I'm sorry. It sounds like there's multiple microphones on and you're coming through multiple times. I'm wondering if everybody's microphone could be turned off except for yours. I apologize to interrupt.
Is that better now?
I'll try. Councilor Roden, is that better?
Much better. Thank you.
Okay. So, different funds, I like to call them different buckets, because they're separated just like a bucket would be with water. Now, the general fund is funded by taxes, mainly by taxes. There's also franchise fees and there's other things, but that is mainly what we call the tax bucket. The general fund provides the library, museum, parks, and police funding, operations, capital improvements. So that's where taxes go. That general fund bucket. Tourism and events, that bucket is funded by the transient lodging tax. That transient lodging tax is paid by tourists who stay at the Airbnbs, the hotel, mainly the hotel, and that funds concerts, movies, downtown economic development. So the TLT, Transit Lodging Tax, funds the events downtown from the Tourism and Events Fund. Taxes funds library, museum, parks, and police. Water rates, the rates that our community pay, fund water. Water is not supposed to fund general fund. Water funds water. When you pay your water bill, we use those water rates for water operations. So the water utility workers, the new lines that go in the ground, that are maintenance, the capital improvements. That is what water rates are for. Water rates are not for parks, they are not for libraries, they are not for museums. They are not for concerts, they are not for movies, they are not for downtown economic development. It's a different bucket. General fund, taxes. Tourism and events, transient lodging tax. Water, water rates. Sewer, just like water rates. Sewer is used for sewer rates. Now, if we had had those sewer rates over all of these years, instead of being funneled off, we could have made it so that the poop is not floating on Lagoon 1. And that smell that we had a few weeks ago is because the poop is floating on Lagoon 1. I think it's $2 million, Gerald, to remove the biosolids. $2 million per lagoon, we have 4 lagoons? 4 lagoons. We were able to do,
Lagoon 2 is the thing.
yeah, we were able to do 1 lagoon, $2 million. We're gonna have to do the other lagoons. That's what your sewer rates are for, is capital improvements and operations. And that's what we're using them for. That's what shows up on your budget, that's what you see, that's what we do. These last 2 years have been hard because we're moving into best practices. We're doing it right. Streets are funded by gas tax. So the gas tax, when you go to the gas station, you put fuel in your tank, you pay a gas tax, we get it back, we can do streets. Gas tax cannot be used for libraries, museums, parks, and police. Gas tax can be used for streets. Stormwater, same as sewer and water. Stormwater fees are used for operations, maintenance, and capital improvements of stormwater. We're moving forward doing the right thing. In this council, I'm extremely honored to work with you for doing the right thing, for making it more clear. You told me when I came in, you wanted a transparent budget, and we're working that direction. We're making it transparent, we're making it easier to read. We are not doing interfund loans back and forth. We are not moving money around. We are very clearly making it, I'll use clear again, clear what funds are being used for what. We are using water for water, sewer for sewer, streets for streets, stormwater for stormwater, transit lodging tax for T&E, and taxes for general fund, exactly as we're supposed to do it. It's hard, but we're doing it right. Now, I want to talk a little bit, because I know there's confusion, and we're trying our best to educate. It's so complex. And if you don't live it every day, it's so hard to understand. The public safety fee is not a tax, it's a fee. Taxes are a percentage of value of your property. A fee is a flat fee. So, and the public safety fee will go only for the police. The council has the ability on June 11th to discuss that public safety fee. And we have been asked, we were asked at the budget committee to bring to them options to reduce that public safety fee. And we'll do that on June 11th, and I encourage our community to listen in, to watch, to be here. Taxes, property taxes, that's where you see it. When you look at your property tax bill, trust me, we don't get it all. It goes to the state, it goes to Polk County, some of it comes to us. We get about $2.7 million to fund the library, the museum, the parks, and the police. Police alone, as they stand right now, it's about 3.2 million. We're not overspending. It's just expensive. It's just expensive. You know, there's a discussion about, can smaller cities do what larger cities do? Well, we can. We could pay more, because larger cities have 50,000, 30,000 people who pay into the pot. We have 10,000. So to make it easy, if you are paying, if you have 100 people paying for a $100 fee, it's $1 each. If you have $10, 10 people paying into a $1 or $100 fee, it's not $1, is it? So when you're a smaller city, it does cost more to get the same kind of services, because you don't have as many people across the realm to put into that pot. And you see this, particularly in public works, you see this, particularly in sewer and water, because small cities, we have to maintain the same DEQ standards as other cities. We have to provide water to our people. We have to use our water rights. We have mandates, just like the bigger cities. We don't have as many people to pay into the system, so it costs more. So it's harder, and you know, we have to do what we can with what we have while trying to provide the essential services: water, sewer, police. You don't want sewer running down the streets, and you sure as heck want to turn on your water and have clean, sufficient water. Because if we don't do what we do by 2028, we will not have sufficient water. There, Mayor, I usually try and keep everything very short, and I usually try not to get on my soapbox. But it's all about education as we move through this budget process, which is so difficult. And again, Mayor and Council, I applaud you for making the hard decisions. It's an honor to work with you.
Thank you for your report. Okay, let's get into new business here. Mr. Fisher, water rate, user rates and fees.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. I have Steve Donovan with me here tonight, and I'll go over a little bit of the front end stuff while Karen is getting the presentation ready. So the city adopted a water system master plan in March of 2023, and then we adopted the system development charge methodology in February of 24. City Council held a work session on April 22nd to review water rates, just the base portion of the water rates, and then another work session in May of 24 to review a tiered block system that's in compliance with our water management conservation plan. That's a state mandated plan that cities of our size are required to put into place. It's adopted by the state, and there are certain rules and regulations we have to follow. One of them is the tiered block system. As far as the water rates go, we'll be applying for funding for a water treatment plant through the State Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund or another funding group. And the proposed fees and rates resolution has to be adopted before we put in our final application for that loan. They will not grant us a loan unless we have the money to back it up. One of the actual documents you have to supply to them is a past resolution for water rates. Did you get that? Steve's going to go over the water rate presentation, where we're at, where we're going, and also cover the new tiered structure. And then we can answer any questions you have at the end. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, councilors. We're back again. This is the 6th water presentation we've done with you since November. So, and what you're seeing here tonight, you've already seen. This is for the benefit of the public. Karen, we're going to go through about 6 slides. It'll be quick. We're going to talk about key planning assumptions for the design and construction of the collector well, conveyance, and water treatment plant. This is the 600-pound gorilla. We all know that. We'll look at the 5-year rate profile based on that funding plan. We'll look at the recommended rates, which in this case now is going to include our base rates and the new structured conservation-based inverted block pricing rates that we gave a presentation to you folks on 2 weeks ago. Neighboring communities rates and the next steps. Go ahead, Karen. So these boxes, we talk from left to right, the preliminary schedule for this project. It will go from design February of this year. It's already kicked off the engineering portion of it through November of 2025. This is a big project. It's a big public works project that will take quite a bit of time. Construction will go December 25 through 2030. We will be in I think what the water folks call it, substantial compliance with perfecting your water right. Kenna had talked about the water right, you use it or lose it. Well, we need to perfect that right by 26 or make substantial progress toward perfection. The actions you've already taken are getting you in that direction with the Water Resources Board. Right now, it assumes Indy is going forward with this project by itself. We had hoped other partners along the way. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The project funding strategy, it's a $40 million project. And what we don't know is what we don't know. Will those costs go up? Yeah, maybe. Will the project run into engineering problems? Maybe. We don't know, but we're moving forward with it. We think, based on the modeling that we've done, you're gonna have $1 million of skin in the game from the water fund, the equity contribution that you're gonna make to the project. That will be burned up pretty quick here on the front end for engineering and preliminary design work. We anticipate this to be principally funded with debt. So if you got a $40 million project and you're putting $1 million in equity, you're gonna borrow $39 million, and it'll go in 2 tranches. One will be interim financing during construction, which is very common for these types of projects. We do it all the time. I think we might have even done it in sewer, where during construction, you're taking out a loan and you're paying interest only. At completion of construction, that interest-only portion, then the principal that you've taken out is taken out with long-term financing. And our modeling for the rate profile is a 30-year loan. And we're assuming the worst case that you would issue standard revenue bonds. Now the next box over there is other support that we can get. We're looking to do federal funding through the congressionally directed spending. Kenna is very familiar with this. You'll be reaching out to your federal groups. Mayor, you'll be speaking to your federal legations on this. The new fiscal year goes from October 1 to September 30. They are not even yet taking applications for congressionally directed spending, so we're still kind of in a holding pattern. Kenna will keep you up to speed on that. We're looking at Monmouth as a partner and Polk County as a partner, and that will come to fruition over the next 18 months. We'll have a much clearer idea of what that partnership is going to be. And then finally, direct funding from the legislature. I'm not feeling confident that the legislature is going to have much money left. You're familiar with last year, House Bill 5160, where money came directed from the state to the counties, and the counties directed it to the locals. That money is done, that's gone. And then the governor's Housing Bill 1516, I believe is the number, that just passed. You got a small portion of that money. $500,000 came here. Some others have got, but there's cupboard's dry, or I should say the cupboard is bare. That's about what it's left. So next slide, Karen. This chart shows what the average single-family customer would pay under our proposed rate structure, assuming 6 units, 600 cubic feet of water per month. That is when we showed you the statistics in our meeting last month. Even in the hottest month of the year, 6 is still the most common consumption. But over the year, that is the most common pattern. And you'd go from about what you're paying now, $55, over the next 5 years, it would go up to about $71.50 over that 5-year period. 5.5% per year is the average levelized rate increase we're proposing. Go ahead, Karen. I apologize for the font. We could have made it smaller. What you see here is the rates. The first bar up on top, the first launch there, it shows the monthly base charges. For those folks at home, your water bill consists of 2 components: a monthly fixed charge, which we call the base charge, and then a volume charge for the amount of water you use based on the metered water that you consume. We are also proposing, based on our conversations with you folks, that on January 1st of this year, not July 1st, you implement the inverted block pricing. The more you use, the more you pay, based on 3 tiers. 0 to 14 would be the base block and incur no premium. 15 to 30 units would get a 20% premium, and then anything over 30 units would have a 75% premium. That's based on our conversation and direction with you folks, and we had a really good conversation with you folks 2 weeks ago on this. Go ahead, Karen. Now here is a chart of neighboring communities, and yes, Independence is at the higher end of the rate structure, but everybody else is facing the same thing you are. Higher costs, higher capital needs, higher water needs in the future. Go ahead, Karen. And now for the dates and milestones. We're asking you to consider adopting the water rates tonight. You're gonna finalize your budget in May, and council will adopt the budgets on June 11th, as staff has pointed out. And then July 1st, the rates would go into effect. So that's the walk that we're talking about here. That's the conclusion of our presentation. So we're both Gerald and I are here to answer any questions you've got.
Questions for staff? Councilor Schwartzler.
Could you give, for the benefit of the audience, what over 30 looks like? Because I know that was really helpful when we had our discussion, the different buckets and kind of what that looks like. What is over 30 mean?
Right. Well, we did the Olympic swimming pool analogy. And an Olympic swimming pool, 50 meters by 25 meters by 2 meters would have 660,000 gallons of water. Over 30 units would be about 20% of an Olympic swimming pool. That's the amount of water you're talking about there.
In a month.
In a month. So that's a lot of water. And what we found out, and we studied August 2023 consumption patterns, which is the hottest month of the year, the highest demand month of the year, there were a fair number of people, and it's all due to irrigation. This is not having anything to do with indoor water use. This is purely outdoor irrigation water. And in some cases where these large amounts of water are consuming, they're watering the streets, they're watering the sidewalks, they're watering something other than just grass when they're using that much water.
I'm sorry, is it my turn?
Just tell me, I can't see you, so who is it?
This is Councilor Roden. I think we're being,
Is this a question?
I think that we're being, if I could say, yeah, I think when you say that, people are watering their streets and sidewalks and stuff, I think that's a little unfair. I called the city today to find out how many people actually use the 15 to 30 and have a 20% premium. We're going to be taxing the bulk of our city during the month of August. I think it's a little misleading to say that only irresponsible people are going to suffer the consequences of that rate. I think that's a little unfair.
I'm going to take the implication of the question that was implied there, and could you talk a little bit about, because you shared with us in the work session what the average person was using,
Right.
And then your deviations from there.
Right.
Can you talk about that, please?
Sure, we can certainly do that, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, but what we're talking about in terms of the base block where there would be no premium, we're talking about 70% of all of the customers in that August consumption pattern would never incur any premium because they all consume within that first 0 to 14 block. So the preponderance of the people in the base block is most of your population. The folks that are out on that far end of the consumption block were 8% of all observed meters in August. So I'm not sure I understand what your supposition is, but I contend that is not the case. Most of the customers, even in August, would not be incurring any kind of a premium against their water bill for conservation. They're doing a pretty good job right now.
And to clarify that you used actual data, not...
That's correct. We didn't estimate, we didn't do it. We took observed meters in August of 2023, what each meter used, and we did the statistical analysis against it.
Additional questions? I have a couple, if I might. First of all, what if we don't do this? What is the implication? What's the implication both for the water rate increase and also the tiers? If you could separate those two issues for us, please.
Sure.
You take the increase, I'll take the tiers.
Okay, so the increase is specifically for inflation increase. There was a standardized inflation, but the predominance of that rate increase has to do with water treatment plant. If you don't pass the rates, we won't build a water treatment plant. You then jeopardize your ability to use that water right that you're still paying a loan on in the water fund. You also will run into an issue starting in 2028 where the city, through the Water Management and Conservation Plan, will start having to enact different tiers of water restrictions, which means you won't be able to won't be able to water your yards on certain days, you won't be able to wash your cars, and it gets stricter and stricter depending on the conditions that are out there as far as weather, heat, and whether or not people are reducing their consumption. So that's the impact of not paying for the increases for the water treatment plant so that you can supply your community with water into the future.
Next thing on the tiered, or on the conservation-based rates, in Oregon, there are two levels of law, think of it. There are the Oregon Revised Statutes. These are laws passed and all of us follow. There are agencies within the government of Oregon, environmental, DEQ, the Water Resources Board, the Oregon Health Authority. All of these agencies, through statute, are given authority to create rules. And they're called the Oregon Administrative Rules. The Oregon Water Resources Department, which regulates your water conservation and management plan, has a rule, OAR 690.086.0140, that says that any municipal water system that serves more than 7,500 people must follow a menu of items. And one of those menu items is establishing a rate structure that promotes water conservation. And this is part and parcel with your newly adopted water conservation plan. Have they accepted your water conservation plan yet?
No, it has a couple of comments and it's going back.
So what you could do, and some cities that do that, if you choose not to do this, you would be out of compliance with that Oregon administrative rule. That doesn't mean that we're gonna jail the mayor, although we could. But you would be out of compliance with Oregon administrative rules.
Additional questions for staff at this point?
This is Counselor Job. I do have a question.
Go ahead, Counselor Joe.
Okay. I know that right now there are some talks about some subdivisions going in, and then with those SDCs, if this did happen, if we did have subdivisions come in, if we did have SDCs coming in, would we be able to reduce the cost of the residents, their water bills, or no?
There is a potential to reduce the rate increases later on. It's a cash game. So if you have cash on hand and you don't have to take out the debt, and we talked about this before, trying to pay as much cash up front and use debt as the last option, then that helps you in the long run, and each year you can reassess, do we need to raise the rate to the, in this case, 5.5%, or can we actually lower it because we started seeing revenues from FCCs that offset the need to have rates. So the answer is yes, but it's dependent on how much we get in on a yearly basis and a relook at that rate increase each year going forward.
Thank you. Additional questions?
Sorry, one more question.
Counselor
Is
Joe.
5.5% the increase, is that what we need in order to qualify for the loan?
Yes. The answer is yes.
They said yes.
Okay, thank you.
They
Thank
said
you.
yes. Additional questions for staff? Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. We're going to now open this for public comment, and I have a number of people who would like to comment, and in no particular order. And so, first person who wanted to speak was Jerry Price. And Karen, is this a 3 or a 5 minute comment period, please? It's a 5, you have 5 minutes. Thank you, sir.
I'm not sure I got 5 minutes in me. I did when I was in high school.
Thank you, sir.
Just going along with some of the things said, one of the things that comes to mind is we talk about how we have to do this water treatment plan, and I understand modernization and the need to maintain infrastructure, but why exactly do we need this new plant? Are we taking care of our residents now with respect to water? I mean, I turn on the tap, I get water. A lot of people.
Go ahead and.
Yeah,
make
so
your comments.
the point is, if we're getting by now, and you're looking at putting an extra burden on all the citizens of this town, why? You're looking at a large portion of my friends here, and I'm shortly gonna be joining that are retired on fixed incomes. You're gonna price us out of the town. We already have, despite what he says, I used to be a landlord. I know all about water bills. I had a 5-plex. My water bill ran me like over $800 a month. Ridiculous. I was charged like I had 5 meters. I had 1. Why? I sucked it up for 10 years and I unfortunately got out of that business. But I don't see the point. If we're doing it just to attract more people and put us in debt, I think it's time for us to take a look at. We don't need to spend money just so we can expand. Let's serve the people that are here when we've got money in the bank and we can afford it without putting us all in debt. Let's take a look at it then. I think we're really being unreasonable. Another comment I would make, and I just didn't understand. I can understand 5.5%. Mention was made that that would take an average water bill of $55 to $71. I don't know who pays that. I haven't since I've been here. Mine is like 110 to 120 a month. And I'm not a big user of water. I just started irrigating here when it got hot, and I don't water a lot. So I think we need to get our numbers together. We need to be truthful. We need to do some introspection and start spending your money and our money responsibly. We don't need to be a diamond in Oregon that, it's just looked at, a showpiece. We need to act responsibly. And that's all I have.
Thank you, sir, appreciate it. Another person who wants to speak is Shane Casallo. I'm sorry, I just killed your last name. Excuse me.
Carvalho, don't worry about it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Good evening, welcome to council.
Good evening, thanks council, thanks mayor for putting us together tonight. I guess I just want to speak on behalf of the concern with the 5.5%. I'll just start there. So that is based off of a 40 million guesstimated budget cost. I work in the construction industry, and I'm very familiar with these projects starting up around $40 million. But then contractors don't want to bid it because they can't do it at their cost. So they're going to turn around and bid it for not just $1 or $2 more million, they're going to bid it for $50 million. So I'm just guessing or just curious, like, is there estimated water rates or, at that point, I mean, what does that look like? Does that look like 12, 15%? I mean, it's kind of a rhetorical question, but I think it's questions we really need to ask ourselves because it is literally happening on not just one, but several projects here in Oregon with water treatment. I love this town. This town is gorgeous. It's beautiful. My wife and I came up here for opportunity, and as the last few years progressed, since 2020 is when we moved up here, we got hungry. We're a hungry young couple. We want things. We're Americans, right? So it's want, take. And it's getting harder and harder to do so. Not just water going up with inflation, but you see cost. Here's a good example. 2 years ago, I was paying $1,200 a month for childcare. Currently, I'm paying $2,000 a month, just about. Okay, so, and I don't qualify for Oregon Trail or anything, so I'm having to eat that 30% food cost with 2 kids, and family. Gas is going up. So every time I turn around, it's like a ShamWow commercial, and I just want to say, oh, there's more. But it doesn't stop. So I guess overall, in a nutshell, I'm neutral with the conversation. I do think it needs to be done, but there's an obvious conundrum of of growth and water and how to sustain that, but I can sure tell you that with people of my generation, it's not sustainable. I think most of the people here are probably at least 20 years senior, and I'm being conservative when I say that. It's not feasible. You're not going to attract and retain young population or just new population. It's going to fizzle out. I can barely afford it, and I make great money. I'm not saying that to be boastful. I'm just saying it is what it is. So it is a concern. So I guess if there's an ask, there needs to be a give. So I mean, maybe look at what do we do with all these industrial lots? How do we stimulate the economy in better ways to help drive down the 5.5%? So I guess that's just kind of my my concern there, because I don't see it happening. Agriculture, I mean, has anyone talked about what that's going to be on the local farms with water consumption there? I mean, I don't hear much about that. They consume a lot of water. So, anyways, that's all I'd say. Just a couple concerns.
Thank you for taking the time to come in, appreciate it.
All right, thanks.
Next person who would like to speak is Mike Rhodes. Good evening, welcome, Council.
Thanks for having us here. So I'm Mike Rhodes. My wife and I are retired medical professionals. I'm also a retired engineer and a business owner for 25 years. We moved here a year ago from Prineville over in Crook County, and we sold our home there, the Dry Creek Air Park, for within $3,000 of what we paid for our home at the Independence Air Park. Polk County has a population of 3.5 times that of Crook County. Polk County budget is 15% smaller than Crook County. City of Independence population is within 100 people of Prineville, 100 people. Yet your budget here is 44% smaller than Prineville's. What's confusing is my property tax bill here is 62% higher than in Crook County. Larger tax base here, smaller budgets here, yet my tax bill is 62% greater. You've hired this outside consultant to justify raising our water bills 31% over the next 5 years, plus this exponential usage multiplier that doesn't even cover funding, begin to touch the funding of the additional $40 million that you're estimating for the sewer project. There's 2 people in our household here in Independence. Our current water sewer base rate is billed at $114 a month. Now, who's paying this $55 a month? I agree with Jerry. I don't believe that number. Maybe that's water only, not including water sewer, but our bill comes at the 5.5% per year. Is that going to be on the water portion only or on our utility portion, the whole utility bill?
I'll ask staff to help us with that element.
So the point is, I don't know, the numbers don't seem to jive up with what I understand what's going on. I've looked into other small water municipalities that I'm directly familiar with. So water sewer rates here, I'm paying $114 base rate. Milwaukee, Oregon, outside of Oregon City, $70 a month. Sun River, $70 a month. Crescent City, California, $90 a month for water sewer. Prineville, $80 a month for water sewer. So Independence is already 42% higher than your sister-sized city over the hill, making Independence an overall significant outlier in our water rates already, as was pointed out by your consultant. What I see here are financial management red flags everywhere. And the city manager pointed this out. My jaw dropped when I heard that the water bucket was rated for the general fund. rather than the water bills being pumped up to pay for the money that was taken to the general fund, we really ought to be clawing back that money from the general fund back into the water budget. It came from there. It got, I don't want to use the word stolen, but appropriated from there, inappropriately. That money ought to be clawed back. And I'm also confused, like what Jerry was saying, are we out of capacity right now that our water supply and sewer treatment is beyond the capacity of what we have living here now? I mean, otherwise, it seems we ought to stop issuing building permits until we have a solid financial plan of how we're going to get our money back to the water bucket, and then build out accordingly that would support whatever growth you want to have here in the area. Anyway, my position is not only no, but hell no.
Thank you, appreciate that. I also have other people who wanted to be recognized that they didn't want to speak, but they just want their interest noticed, was Richard Hill. I have David Nichols, Shelby Maldonado. I murdered it, I'm sorry. Thank you. Kathleen Hill and William McCoy and Edward McDonald. Thank you. We have it written down. So your comments are noted and they'll reflect in the record. I'm going to take a thing here and ask staff because you heard a couple of implied questions in here that I think council is going to be asking you anyway. And so if you could address some of the comments or questions that were made, and then council will go into discussion.
I tried to write as fast as I could with some of the questions and comments, so I'll do my best. Hopefully I'll be able to answer some folks' questions. Why do we need more water if we already have enough for folks that are here? Simple answer is we're going to grow. And we're required by the state of Oregon to plan for that growth. Can't stop growth. I suppose you could stop issuing building permits, but then the state would come after us because we've declared a de facto moratorium on building. And that's not allowed. What happens with a moratorium is if you don't build the improvements you need to, and you can't supply sufficient water, sufficient sewer, you end up putting yourself in a position where you have to declare a moratorium with the state. The state will come back, and it's a whole process. You have to go through DLCD. You have to go through DLCD. If they approve your moratorium, they will give you a set period to correct it. 5 years?
I believe it's 5 years.
So you didn't do the things you were supposed to. You got yourself in a position. We're going to go ahead and let you stop building, but you need to fix everything that you didn't fix, and you have 5 years to do it. If you don't, the state will come in and take over. I don't know about you, but I don't think you want the state running your water system. That's not what they're in the business to do anyway.
If I may, Mayor, Cheryl, who pays for it when the state takes over?
Oh, you do. Plus the administrative charge that the state charges you, and they're not actually going to run it. They're going to hire a private company to come in and do it for you. So you're going to be paying all of the costs that you should have been paying to keep your system up, and you're going to be paying this big administrative overhead fee to manage it. Plus everybody's rates are going to go up even higher because you've got to cover all this additional costs. How do we know what the actual cost will be? We have an estimate of what we think it's going to cost. We won't know until we actually get into the engineering. It's going to involve geotechnical work. We're going to have to drill a pilot well. we're gonna have to run that pilot well for a certain period of time to determine what the yield is of that well, to see if what we had planned to do is going to work. We're doing it because it's cheaper to do what's called a rainy system. It's a big caisson, has pipes out into the gravel bed underneath the river. It's cheaper to do that than it is to put a pipe out into the river with fish screen and go through all of the permitting requirements, because you're gonna be dealing with Army Corps, DSL, Fish and Wildlife, and all the other agencies. And so your permit time to get that approval will take years to do. We have conservatively estimated higher than what we think it will actually come in at, but there are so many unknowns that we won't be able to answer those questions until key milestones of the design process. We need to know what the yield is that we can get out of it. We need to know at the time we get ready to go to construction, are the costs going to be the same, or are they going to be higher? What treatment are we going to actually use? Because there's the basic treatment, but the community can come back and say, no, I don't want to treat just at the base level that the state requires. I want even higher treatment. That adds cost. And that's happened. That's happened to certain communities. Wilsonville, when I worked there, went through a water treatment plant process, and people came out in force. I don't want to drink the river water, because they were on failing wells. They had overtaxed their wells and dropped the water level in that area. They had to go to the river. So instead of building the treatment plant that is just the base plant, they put in the Cadillac version. That's not what we're doing. We're starting with the base plant. What do we need to meet the minimum requirements for safe drinking water? And that's what we're proposing going forward. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, got some. Just wanted to respond to notes that I took. Who exactly is paying the $55 a month for water? Well, we looked at 1 year's worth, not 5 years worth of observed water consumption for every meter in the system, and determined that the average water consumption throughout the year is 6 units. Folks here that came tonight say, I use more water than that. Well, yeah, they do. And some use a whole lot more, and some use a whole lot less. We even talked about, in August, there were over 100 accounts that had 0 water consumption because of move-ins and move-outs. But the annual average customer in Indy uses 6 units and pays right now about $55 a month for water. Add on to that sewer and stormwater. This is just water. That was the other question I had. Is that just water or sewer? This is just water, what we're talking about tonight. So we have the benefit of knowing exactly who we sell water to and how much water each of those customers consumes. And the average of all of those customers is $55.
I've been in 24 years.
Okay, so
I still have some more.
you have a couple more?
Yeah. So who are our customers? Other than ones that were grandfathered in, and there aren't very many of them, they're single-family residential properties that are in the urban growth boundary outside the city limits. By mandate, we only supply water to those who are in our corporate city limits. So if you're in the UGB, but you're not in the city and you want water, I can't provide you water unless you annex into the city. Simple fact.
We don't serve farms.
Yeah, we don't serve farms. We don't retail sell water either. The only water that's outside customer, residential, commercial, industrial customer use is construction water, and we charge them what it costs to make that water, but they're required to use that water for dust control and everything else to comply with DEQ. But that's such a minute amount of water sales, but we do recover that cost. The numbers, like he said, were just water only. It's not sewer and stormwater, it's not the full bill. If you look at the bill, there's a breakdown, there's water base and water use, sewer base, sewer use, and stormwater fee. The increase that we're proposing is on the water portion only. So it's not 5.5% of water, sewer, and stormwater. It's only on the water portion of that bill. And the increase that we're talking about only covers the debt for the water treatment plant and our estimate of annual inflation, which isn't a great deal, but that's your cost for operation and maintenance, personnel, that kind of cost. We're building in inflation so that we don't tell you, here's your rate increase, oh, we forgot to add inflation in it, now we're gonna raise it even more. We're trying to capture all of that now, and then we review it every year to make sure that we're on track, we're not over collecting or under collecting. And as far as when are we out of water, capacity-wise, the master plan said at our current growth rate, we would start running into water delivery issues at 2028. Our water right, we need to extend it by doing this water treatment plant. We think we might be able to get a 10-year extension to allow us to design and build the project. But if we're not actively moving forward to that so we can start delivering water shortly after that, we will have to start curtailing water. And if we have continued drought conditions and water levels decrease, that may accelerate it. What we're trying to do through the tiered structure is to get people who are using, we're not telling them you can't use the water. What we're trying to do is give them a nudge to get back into the base level. And then that way, if they're in the base level, that helps us preserve the water that we have and stretch that out a little longer. Because the last thing I want to do is start instituting water rules on folks, where if your house ends in this number, you get to water on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Otherwise, you're Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, and no water on Sunday. You can't wash your car. And then we'll have to start going around and issuing citations to people who aren't following it. What we're trying to do is get the folks who are overusing water to reduce it back so we can extend that out. So when we do deliver the water treatment plant, it comes on right when we need it. And then growth can continue. But we can't stop growth.
Do you have additional questions that you're responding to?
That was all.
That was all you had to say?
That's all I have for my
Okay, go
notes.
ahead.
Do you have any more, Steve? Okay. I only have one, council, and folks, we talked, there was a question about industrial and recruitment. We are strongly recruiting for industrial, and that industrial is an extraordinary place to bring in economic viability into a community. Most of the industrial isn't a heavy water user. That's what we're kind of looking for. Most of the industrial will provide jobs for our people and relatively high paying jobs. We do have one factor that's a problem, our infrastructure. We don't have water and sewer in place to bring in industrial. So we are looking for grants and state funding to bring this industrial in. We're working with our state legislator and we're working with our federal legislators to try and get the infrastructure in the ground to really recruit industrial. So the answer is yeah, we're recruiting industrial for jobs and for economic viability for our community. The more people that pay into the system, the lower the rates can be.
Thank you, staff, for providing answers to some of the questions that were provided. Okay, we have, you have resolutions in front of you. If someone would like to make a motion, then we can get into discussion.
I move to adopt resolution 24-1606 and the attached April 2024 water rate study final report by Donovan Enterprises, Inc.
I have a motion. Well, I need someone to second this before we. Without a second?
Go ahead and withdraw the motion.
Sure, that's fine.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Thank you. Okay, what are you suggesting here?
it's not lost on me, and I think a lot of people here, that we're asking people to pay more in their utilities, and it's not just what we have here in the city. I'm looking at my rates for gas going up, my rates for electric going up. I'm a single income household, I'm a small business owner, it is difficult. The city also needs to provide employment for people. So I would like to propose that we take the revenue generated in that highest tier, what is it, the over 30 tier, you know?
Yeah, it's the second.
The second tier, that we take the money generated from that to put into a fund to help people that demonstrate a need to pay their utility bill. We direct it to city staff to figure out the logistics of what the requirements are, how often they're allowed to provide, et cetera. But that would hopefully help alleviate some of the utility costs for people that may struggle to pay their utility bills.
It's a great idea.
I will, is that a motion? I would second that, because I'd like to start discussion.
So what I'd like to do is, if it's okay, and I'm just trying to make processing, do we want to move the motion with the amendment that you just discussed as a package? Is that okay? So if you go ahead and you were making a motion originally,
You want to make the motion and then add the
and
amendment?
then add the amendment, and do you have wording, or does staff have wording?
I have notes, yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So go ahead and make a motion.
I move to adopt resolution 24-1606 in the attached April 2024 water rate study finding report by Donovan Enterprises Inc. with the amendment proposed by Councilor Schwartzler.
And I need a second.
Second.
I have a second by Schwartzler. So and before we go any further, can you read your amendment so that staff can get this, please? Then we'll go to discussion.
I move that we take revenue generated from tier 2 to create a fund that can be used for residents with a demonstrated need to assist with their water bill, specifics to be set by city staff.
Sound, staff have that?
To assist with their water bill, specifics to be set by staff. Specifics, yeah.
Right, okay,
That is unbelievably vague.
hold on. Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. We are now into discussion on the total, on the total thing. And would you like to speak? I want to make sure, I don't want to run over anybody because I don't have everybody here. So, without objection, Councilor Schwartzler?
A quick clarification, that yes, it is vague, and so I understand the concern about that. What I meant by staff being able to set specifics is what that demonstrated need is, how often people could apply for it, what the limits might be, et cetera.
And if I may, I'm gonna look at staff here for a second. Is this is something similar to what was done during the COVID times with an outside organization implementing this, is that correct?
And again, this is something we would look at the this is something we would look at the operations level, but most likely what we would do is we would take the revenue that's generated from the highest users, we would collect that into a fund, and then we would have some agency that we already work with, and they would help us to determine who's in need, what that looks like, how much they get, all of the factors. So yes.
And that was what was done during COVID by a number of governments work with that.
Correct, and that is probably what we would model it on there, because it worked very, very well during COVID.
Clarification here, Councilor Schwartz. So the intent here is that it's not, you're making sure that any additional dollars collected it's not going into city coffers, it'd be to be helping people in need, is that correct? Okay, we have additional discussion.
And by that other agency, you're talking about the agency that we use to payments?
It may not be, actually. It may be, it could be, we work with Polk County and ask their service integration team to help us. It could be a number of different agencies.
The record show Counselor Roden, is able to be here first. Now, additional comments?
This is Counselor. You have
Go
something?
ahead, Counselor Joe, you're there.
So mine is a question. I'm just trying to remember this correctly, but how many units or homes does the state require us to build? My understanding is that you guys still can't answer that question, but I know the threat is there that we have to build, but there's no clarification.
Could you say that again? You came through partially garbled, so please say what you're saying again.
Okay, my question is, how many units or homes does the state require us to build? Because I hear it all the time that we have to build, but nobody can answer the question of how many units.
I'm going to look at staff and say, the question was, how many units is the state requiring us to build?
Well, best we can do is, I believe it's 38,000 statewide. Annually. And so there's not been, all we know is that we have to build. We can't stop building, we can't put on a moratorium. We don't know that we have to build, say, 20,000. We just know that it's 38,000 statewide.
And is that part of the conversation we're having with the Planning Commission after this meeting, as we start going into the housing production strategy?
Right, we're going to be continuing our discussions that we started when we started with the housing needs analysis assessment, and then the housing production strategy is the next step in that manner. That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I have one other question.
Please do.
The water and sewer money that was taken, as well as from the general fund, that was money that was taken for the urban renewal fund to build things like the city hall and the police station. Is that correct? Is that how the money was I don't want to say misappropriated. The money was taken from certain pots and put into urban renewal so that they could build things like the city hall and the police station. Is that correct?
Actually, that's incorrect. From the funds were moved over into the general fund to continue to fund things like the library and the museum and the parks and the police, because the general fund is not sustainable as it stands.
Okay, so no money was taken from water or sewer for urban renewal.
The only funds that were used, if I recall correctly, from water and sewer were for infrastructure projects that did encompass some of the things in the urban renewal, but it was infrastructure, so it was water and sewer lines. It wasn't for anything other than that. And it was interfund loans.
Okay.
So those loans are being paid back by the urban renewal agency to the city's water and sewer.
Thank you.
Okay.
Additional questions?
I have a question. Does this water treatment plant have a helicopter pad?
No.
There was no plan to put that in?
Helicopter pad on
Yeah.
the water treatment plant?
Yeah, on the facilities, on the grounds.
Oh, so the entire site that's out there, a portion of it is the water treatment plant. The other portion of it for long-range planning is the public workshops facility, to move it out of its undersized location out here. There's potential also to put part of the police facility out there, to put in a facility for fuel storage, because we have a small fuel storage over here, and we also have fuel that we get through retail, where we can fuel out of one location. It also has enough ground out there to, in the event of Cascadia, if the bridges are out between here and the other side of the river, they could airlift, if we had an area that was open, they could airlift and drop materials over here that then then be taken out and used on this side, go to Dallas or wherever. So it's not a helicopter pad, we're just, we're just looking at the potential of all of the uses that could happen in the future and trying to be prepared in an emergency event, that if we needed resources in this community, but we couldn't get them across a bridge, they could be airlifted and dropped at a central location that was secure.
We've got an airport.
Thank you.
There is an airport that is located.
Additional questions? Additional comments?
I would have an additional comment. I think when we propose fees that, and then take from people to help the less fortunate, I think our goal here is to help the entire community, not just a few. And so whenever we look at policies and we say we would like to help just a few, I take a step back, because we should be looking out for everybody in Independence and how much everybody's paying in their water bills and sewer bills. And so I'm very cautious with that. I think that we need to look at reducing everybody's fees and really take into what we heard tonight when people speak. They're here because they're passionate about this, and I started council because, well, one of the reasons was my dad stopped taking showers because he didn't have enough money to pay the water bill. And so I hear it when people come and speak and say they don't have enough money to pay their bills. And then, you know, we're trying to hurt people. We're trying to hurt everybody. I think we really need to listen to people when they're talking.
Additional comments by any council members? Hearing none, we do have a motion. All in favor of the motion as amended signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That's Schwartzler, Morton, Poor, and Counselor Joe, how are you voting?
No.
Okay, and Counselor Roden?
No.
No, okay. That's 2 noes and 3 yeses. Counselor Martin Willis being absent is a no by absence, so that makes it 3-3, which means that I can invoke the tiebreaker. The mayor gets to vote. The mayor votes yes, the motion passes. Okay, we have, I think, our police chief has a presentation to make.
That's one thing up there. Good evening. Am I up?
Are you on?
I've got batteries.
I'm sure I can be loud enough. As long as the owl's picking me up.
Have a second with your
Batteries.
Councilor Morton, I know it's hard for you to see, but if we want to keep moving, we could have Chief just sit in his spot.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay, how about now?
Sounds good. Continue, please.
Great. Mayor, council, for your consideration tonight, there is a 5-year sales contract with Axon Enterprises for body-worn cameras, tasers, digital cloud-based storage, and software. This is a product we have been using in the police department since 2014. I am very much in favor of the product offerings, and the rest of the county has now followed suit and are using the same technology, including the district attorney's office. So to put it in a nutshell, it provides tasers for the officers to wear. It provides their body cameras, all of the digital storage, automatic redaction, auto tagging, which means that we don't have to go in and manually label all of our videos. It knows what we're doing because it's integrated with our CAD system. So we've done a lot of work already with this system and this particular vendor. It is a 5-year contract. Year 1 is a reduced amount, and that amount is covered by a grant that we got through City County Insurance Company. Year 2, which would be June of '25 was already in the proposed police department budget, that amount. So years 3, 4, and 5 would need to be budgeted for during the normal budgeting process. Are there any
Questions for the chief?
Can we, look at getting potential grants in year 3, 4, and 5?
We can look at it. The same, our insurance carrier is who granted us this one, so yeah, we definitely can do that.
Great. This is an action item, and I think I have an amended motion. Does everybody have that?
Yes.
Okay. If someone would like to make,
Yes, I authorize the city manager to execute a legally sufficient contract with Axon Enterprises for the products and services described in the attached quote in the amount of $193,925.14, knowing that year 1 is already paid for on a grant.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by Core. Is there further discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And Counselor Joe?
Aye.
That's yes. And there was no opposition?
Yes.
So that was yes. Okay, so that's 6-0 yes. Motion carries. I know we've gone a little long because we have planning commission members who are going to be down at the work session. Are there any brief announcements to make at this point? With hearing none,
Can I have one quick one?
Please.
Just wanted to say that the Independence Downtown Association is having year 2 of the celebration for the last day of school, and it will be downtown Independence on the 14th of June from 3 to 5 p.m. It is for all kids who are being done with school that week. And there are lots of free things that were donated by community members, and that's the only caveat for any vendor or presenter that wants to be down in the top of the park, is that whatever they have for kids has to be given out for free. And that I hear includes also Hawaiian shaved ice.
okay. All right, I'm looking at staff. We're having the work session, is that downstairs? Okay.
Yes.
We're going to move promptly. We're gonna start at 8:15 down in the work session. So the council meeting is over, we're gonna go down and have a work session downstairs.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I will.